I guess it's not morning. How many of you here know who Steve Jobs was, the Apple man? Just about all of you. When Steve Jobs passed away, he was worth about $31 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? My question to you guys today is, how many of you here would like to trade places with Steve Jobs today? Any volunteer? That means that your health is worth more than $31 billion. That's what it means. Right? Just think about this for a moment. There's no amount of money that can equate to a person being healthy. Would that be fair to say that if you don't have your health, your ability to produce at your work will be affected? For you to be here every day not being sick, would that be affected? The ability to get a promotion, to get a full 8 hours of production in a day would be affected? Would that be fair to say that? Would that be fair to say that if you're mom or dad, husband and wife, that would be hard to be able to provide for your family if you're not healthy? Would that also be fair to say that in the next 15 to 20 years from now, the goals that you have that you'd like to reach would be hard to be able to reach those goals if you don't have your health? Would that be fair to say that? So now I know I have the right information for you, because I want to, you know, you guys are all like, I can see the tension about sugar. As it says right here, I'm Dr. Jean-Guy. I usually don't bother people with my last name. Jean-Guy is my first name. I've been here in Lansing for the past 20 years. My first training, to give you a little bit of background, my first training was in kinesiology to be a personal trainer. And then I got a degree in nutrition. Then I became a chiropractor. Then I started a master's. And then my wife said, we need to go to work, so we never finished that. And, you know, I had to get back and start working. So I've been in this town for the past 20 years. My expertise is in health and wellness, and I would like to just share some of that wisdom over the past 20 years with you guys. And before I start, I really would like to, you know, for you to understand where I'm coming from, because it's all going to make sense to you after I share this story with you. As you can probably, as you already picked up, I have a little bit of an accent. I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. And I grew up on a farm on the south shore of Montreal. I've got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And my mom and dad got married at a very young age. My mother was 17 years old. My dad was 22 years old. And my father was diagnosed with diabetes early on in his life. And it took a while before he was diagnosed, because he would not go to the doctor. He would refuse to go to the doctor. And by the time he did go to the doctor, not only he had to take this magic pill to bring his blood sugar down, but he also had to start giving himself a shot of insulin, because his pancreas had stopped working. So in a short period of time, my father is 22 years old, in a short period of time, every single morning he'd give himself a shot of insulin. And in the afternoon, just to make sure he wouldn't pass out, he would eat cake, cookies, candies, and ice cream. And not only that, is every single day he would also smoke 4 packs of cigarettes, which is 100 cigarettes day in and day out, and he would never smoke in the house. So I'm not sure how he could manage to do that, but he did. So just a few years after that, by the time he's turning 30 years old, he had this thing called peripheral neuropathy, and some of you might know what that is, but from his knees down, he couldn't feel his legs because his circulation was not good. When your blood sugar is high, you don't control it very well. What happened is, you know, those nerves, they're just going to die, your circulation just goes down. So you could just take a knife and you could just stab him in his legs, and at the age of 30, he couldn't feel his legs. In a short period of time, within 5 years, he was almost completely blind, about 75 to 80%. And I remember this very vividly, because he used to wake me up at 4:30 in the morning, and as a young man, I was about 6 years old, or so. I was young. And he would wake me up, and I would be driving the tractor to go spray the crop, and he would be standing right next to me, and he would tell me where to go, because he could not see ahead of him. In a short period of time, within 2 years, by the time he's 37 years old, he spent about 20 hours a day in bed, and then the other 4 hours he'd go in the living room and somebody would spoon feed him. And at that time, he had started to develop a wound. It was on the side of his hip. It was a bed sore, because obviously he had lost a lot of weight. He was about 110 some pounds, right? And when it first started, it was about the size of a quarter, and within a year, it was about this big around. And you could see, literally, you could see every single layer of the flesh, all the way down to the bone. And the doctor would do a visit once a week. He would come in, take the tape off, and he would just clean it up, put some ointment, and put the tape back on. My mom would do that a few times as well. So every couple of days, this would be done. Every time you take the tape off, this thing was a little bit bigger. And at the same time, the same thing had started to develop on the other side. And by the time, we were to that point, he was completely blind. He wouldn't even be able to see, ahead of him at all, zero. And then he turned to be 40 years old in July 14, 1982. And 3 short months later, one day he wasn't feeling well, so my mom called the ambulance. And the paramedic came in with a stretcher, and they rolled right in front of us. My 2 brothers are younger than me. My two sisters are a little bit older. My mother and my cousins are right there. And they go into the bedroom, and they just put my dad on the stretcher. And they rolled him right in front of me. And I can recall clearly asking my mom, where are they taking Dad? Where are they taking Dad? And she didn't answer. And at that moment, as a young man, I realized that, being a provider is great, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter. And if you say, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, why are you here today? And why do you do what you do? That's the reason, because I've seen this right in front of my eyes. And ironically enough, I'm going to talk to you about sugar today, right? And this is really what killed my father, because I didn't even have time to see him after that. Within 40 hours, he had a heart attack and then he died. So just imagine that for a moment. So as I'm going through this, that will make more sense to you why I have this passion for what I'm about to share with you. And not only the passion is in the next 30 minutes, because I want to take time to answer some of your questions. In the next 30 minutes, I want to show you some effective, powerful, natural way of being healthy. And then for you to be able to live the life that was intended for you while minimizing the deadly effect of chronic illnesses. And then to give you some strategy to say, okay, what can I do when I walk out of here? And I realize that all of you here, you're all at a different spot on your journey, and that's totally okay, right? But I just want to make sure that you have something in your hand that you can say, hey, you know what, there's something I can do. And I want to make sure that you have that before we leave. Is that fair? Now, who gets the most out of this gym experience? The person that goes to the gym that has a corporate wellness, he goes downstairs, sits on the couch, open up the paper, start reading the paper and watching TV for an hour. And the person that goes out there, put their shorts on, t-shirt on, and go work out for an hour. Who's going to get the most out of it? That's not a trick question, by the way. Okay, that's obvious, right? So as I go through this, I'll be asking you some question. Raise your hand. You're going to raise your hand. Nod your head. Repeat some numbers. And the reason for that is because I know in 90 days from now, if you engage with me into this process, which I know it's important for you at some level, because if not, you wouldn't be here. Right? I want to make sure you guys remember a lot of this stuff because this is important. At least I think it's important. And I'm going to challenge myself to make it as important, as much as it is for me that it's going to become for you. Fair enough? So now that you understand a little bit about, why I'm here and why I want to share this with you, and I'm super excited to be here, by the way. I've been doing this now for, 20 years. And, every time that I can get in front of people and share this, I think it's, it can potentially be life-changing for you. So I first want you guys to, let's see if we can get this to work. We had little challenges. Hopefully the challenges are gone.
What I'm going to show you is that your body turns carbohydrate food into sugar. Let's start with a typical breakfast of cereal, toast, orange juice, and a banana. Cereal has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Toast has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Orange juice has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Banana has about 1/8 cup of sugar, and that's just breakfast. Let's say around 10 a.m. you get hungry, so you have a snack. Let's say you have a fruit on the bottom yogurt. This fruit on the bottom, low-fat yogurt, has a whopping 1/4 cup of sugar. And for lunch, let's say you're watching your weight, so you have a skinned chicken breast, baked potato, and some bread. There is no sugar in the chicken, but the potato has a heaping 1/4 cup of sugar in it. And the bread also has a 1/4 cup of sugar in it. So now 3 o'clock rolls around and you're feeling a bit tired, so you have a few pieces of candy and a soda pop. The candy is about 1/4 cup of You got it right. Sugar. And the soda is about 1/4 cup of sugar as well. Now for dinner, you're a good low-fat dieter and you're really trying to do the right thing, so all you eat is pasta. Pasta, bread, and a soda. And the pasta again is about 1/4 cup of sugar. The bread, another 1/4 cup. And the soda, about 1/4 cup of sugar. Now, are you getting the picture? Look at all this sugar in the foods you're eating. Incredible, isn't it? Keep in mind now that these spikes of sugar demand a spike in insulin to push all this sugar out of your bloodstream. Now that's just one day's worth. Multiply that by 365 days, and then by how old you are, and you should be getting a picture of why most of us have had such a hard time losing weight, and why many of us suffer from such a variety of health ailments.
Here we go. You know, you watch this, and this can be pretty enlightening, and some of you might be like, well, I don't do that. And one of the things that we do at our office, when I start taking care of a person nutritionally, I have people write down everything they eat, drink, or snack on. And the reason why I want them to do that is not to make them feel bad, but I want them to do that to realize where all the sugar is, because this is important. And most people don't know where the sugar is at. And until you find out where the sugar is at, then you say things like, you have problems, and then you say things, I don't understand why, I don't really eat sugar. And for most people, it's because they don't really know where the sugar is at. And I want to make sure that by the time it's all said and done today, that you can see that. So here's the Starbucks coffee, those little cubes of sugar, how much sugar there is. I can almost smell those at the airport. Not that I've ever done that, but, right? Here's the milkshake there at McDonald's. Haagen-Dazs, sorbet, right? Some people are into sorbet because they think that it's better. So here it says 100 years ago, the average American ate about 6 pounds of sugar, and now, you know, people eat anywhere between 150 pounds to 200 pounds of sugar a year. And that's the average, because there's some people that don't eat that. So just think of this, that's a lot of sugar. And most people, I would say that they don't have the knowledge in nutrition to understand where the sugar comes from, because people don't really eat food anymore. People eat a lot of stuff that, you know, I tell people, I said that Dr. Jean-Guy's rule number 1 is if there is a label on it, it's not considered food. And then I get some look with big eyes, they're like, well, what am I going to eat? Right? So I want to talk about condition and things that people are experiencing. Probably the number one thing that people have when they come to the office, if I were to survey you guys and say, I want you to give me your level of energy, the number one complaint that I get from people are like, I'm tired. Right? I'm tired. So that's probably the first thing that's going to happen in people as you see your body breaking down. But a lot of other things will come from this thing called sugar. Matter of fact, I give you this little handout here, which is fascinating. Don't take the time to read it right now, but I just want you to look at it. It's called 147 Reasons Why Sugar is Ruining Your Health. And this lady there, her name is Nancy Appleton. You go on our website, and there's 147 ways that sugar is just breaking down your body, and just name it, it's there. And this is all backed up by research, by the way. And you can look every one of those up. And she has a website, so I give that to you. So here it says, what do cancer, cholesterol, crankiness all have in common? And then I wrote down being tired. The commonality is, you know, we don't know a whole lot about cancer, but there's one thing that we do know for sure, is if they want to know where the cancer is in the body, they give you a sugar solution, and then they do a CAT scan, a PET scan, a SPECT scan, they do all kinds of scans. That's how they find the cancer in the body. Cancer cells love sugar. And then here you have cholesterol. So I know that you were told, right, that cholesterol is bad. And I would challenge you not to listen to me, because I want you to go look it up and be your own doctor. Cholesterol is not the bad guy. As a matter of fact, when you eat a lot of sugar, there's a lady that wrote a book. It's called Know Your Fat by Mary Enig, E-N-I-G. And you can find that book, and all of you are capable of reading the book. It's on Amazon, right? This lady died. She was, I think, 97 years old just a few years ago. Her entire book is about fat. And she just goes over the chemistry of when people are eating sugar, how their cholesterol goes up. I can take any one of you here that has problem with cholesterol. Within 20 days, your cholesterol is going to be down where it needs to be at. Every single one of you. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of problems you have. It doesn't matter what they've said to you. When you cut down the sugar, the cholesterol is going to go down. The only reason why cholesterol is high is because cholesterol is there because there's inflammation in the body. If I say to you guys, which by the way, you have a beautiful view here. If I say to you guys, you know what, on Michigan Avenue, every time that there's a car accident, the cops are always there, so therefore it must be the cops' fault. What would you say to me? You're like, Dr. Jean-Guy, you're silly. Right? 35 years ago, that's exactly what happened at the Framingham Heart Study that they've done. They noticed that when people had heart disease, their cholesterol was high. So therefore, they're like, hey, cholesterol must be the bad guy. What they've never realized is, and back in those days, 50 years ago, normal cholesterol was over 300, by the way, just so you know. And you can look it up. And today, they would like your cholesterol to be 100, right? You're going to be in your coffin dead, but you had a good cholesterol. If I just say to you ladies, I'm going to give you a few names like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA. What are those called? Those are hormones. You think those are important? Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I teach an entire class about that, right? But all of those hormones are made from what? They're made from cholesterol. If you don't have enough cholesterol, guess what happened? You can't make it. And then you're going to go to the doctor, and then the doctor is going to be like, because if those hormones don't work properly, you're going to go cuckoo, just so you know. Meaning that you're going to feel depressed. So you go to the doctor, and they're going to be like, yeah, you're depressed. You must have a chemical imbalance, so we'll give you some psych drugs. Cholesterol makes all of your hormones. All of them. So I think it's important. Male and female. Crankiness, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Right here it says, sugar causes cholesterol problem. So when you eat sugar, what happens is your HDL is going to go down, your LDL is going to go up every single time. If your triglycerides are up, then the triglyceride is called the crapometer. So the more crap you eat, the more your triglyceride is going to go up every single time. Every time. And then here it says all those things causes inflammation. So the real cause here of the cholesterol going up into your body is because there's inflammation. So some of you would say, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, why is my cholesterol up then? So when the cholesterol goes up in the body, it's a protective mechanism to try to take care of inflammation. So when you have inflammation in your body, you can look 100 diseases and you can bring it down into a funnel to just about one word for all of those diseases today. And the word is inflammation. So one of your goals in life is to say, how can we decrease the inflammation in my body? When you stop eating cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta, then you're doing pretty good. Right? So what's causing inflammation in the body is when you eat sugar. Sugar causes inflammation, and then as a result of that, the cholesterol is going to go up because the body's trying to protect the area that are inflamed. And it will do that every single time. So here it says sugar is the only thing that cancer cells eat. And I used to show this video that's exactly what they do. They give a sugar solution to this person. They do a PET scans in a person's brain, and then you can see all the sugar going to the area where there's cancer. When a person comes to the office and they say the first thing they say, and some of you might be in that boat, they're like, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, I have hypoglycemia. And if I don't eat every 15 minutes, I'm just going to pass out. Right? Or I get really cranky. I'm sure you've never heard that. I'm sure some of you don't experience that. But if you do, right, you don't have, hyperglycemia is just like, it's a problem with your adrenal glands because you've been eating too much sugar. The adrenals are little glands right on top of your kidneys, right? They're in charge of your energy, your stamina, your vitality, your hormones, your immune system. And if you're a lady and you're past 40 years of age, what happens is when the ovaries are toning down, then the adrenals are going to take up the slack. So when those guys are down for the count to begin with, then what happens is those adrenals are in charge of regulating your blood sugar. So when you've been eating a lot of sugar and you keep eating a lot of sugar, what happens is if you don't eat every 5 minutes, you feel like you're going to pass out. And the reason for that is because you eat sugar, you feel better. People feel tired, they eat sugar. People feel depressed, they eat sugar, right? But as a consequence of eating the sugar, then you have to go back down too, right? When you go back down, how do you feel? How do you feel? Like crap, right? You're like, I feel like crap. I don't like the way I feel. Until I go again and I eat again. So the biggest mistake that people are making is they think they have hypoglycemia, right? When they and not that it's not, the symptoms is not real, But the symptom that you have is because the organs are not working properly. The organs are nutritionally deficient, and that's the reason why you feel that way. Right? So when people have problems with sugar, they would say, hey, you know what? I feel like if I don't eat sugar, I just don't feel good. Because sugar is worse than sniffing Coke. I mean, literally, the addiction to sugar is worse. And then I'm going to give you some solution how you can overcome that. So here it says reducing the sugar intake helps to stabilize your blood sugar. So most people would not believe that. Because they're like, hey, you know what? If I don't eat every 15 minutes, I'm going to pass out. So when people start reducing sugar and then you change that by eating more protein and fat, then a person would feel a whole lot better. And then sugar suppresses the immune system, so the more sugar you eat, right, the more that your immune system is going to go down, so a person is going to be more prone to be sick. And some of you, you know that with your kids, or maybe even with yourself, that you're like, hey, you know what? My immune system is not very strong. I'm always sick, and I don't know why. The more sugar you eat, the weaker your immune system will become. And then it's also said that your sugar will just upset the mineral imbalance. So there's people, they always have cramps. Charlie horse, things like that, right? You've heard of that before? People, when they wake up in the middle of the night, they're like, ah! So when you eat sugar, what happens is it takes all the minerals out of your body. And when you don't have minerals, it creates an imbalance. So therefore, the body will not be able to function the way it should. So this sugar thing causes a lot of things in the body that most people don't know or they don't understand. You would go to the doctor and you would say, well, I have hot flashes. You know I'm hot. Why is that? When people have hot flashes, I can tell you that the more sugar you eat, the more imbalance you have in your hormones, right? And if you have imbalance in your hormones, you will have hot flashes. There's no doubt about it. You go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm tired all the time. Yeah, you're tired because you're a sugar addict. So then you eat sugar, you feel better, but it's only a temporary fix. You go to the doctor, your blood pressure is up. Well, guess what? When you eat cake, cookies, candies, and ice cream, and you start putting weight on, right? People are like, well, since I've been 40 years of age, I just can't lose weight. I eat less, I exercise more, and I can't lose weight. You guys can relate to that? Anybody? They're like, I don't eat as much as I used to, and I just can't take the weight off. So you have this thing called HPA axis dysregulation. That means that your brain, glands in your brain gets dysregulated with what's happening downstream, which is your pancreas and your liver and your adrenals. And those are all organs that are in charge of monitoring and regulating the hormones of the body. So it will just disrupt the imbalance. So here it says, what about craving? So people are craving. So when people don't have sugar that are craving, you guys experiencing craving? Who's experiencing craving here? Raise your hand. Don't lie about it. Right? I mean, does it ever happen? Yeah, it happens. Some people are like, hey, you know what? I'm craving. And some of you might be like, I'm craving all the time. The reason why you're craving sugar is because you don't eat enough fat. And you don't eat enough protein. And that part is really, really important. When you don't eat enough fat, when you eat sugar, there's no mechanism that tells your belly, that feeds back to your brain and tells your brain, hey, you can stop eating. But when you eat fat, automatically your belly is going to feed back to your brain and say, you're full now, you don't need to eat anymore. So when a person has craving, they have craving because they're not eating enough fat. And I understand that all of you were told, you're like, you can't eat fat, you got to be fat. Guess what happened the past 50 years? We've been eating less fat than ever before, but yet now we're just close to get to 80% of the country that is overweight and over 35% of the country that is obese. So do you think that we're eating less fat than ever before, but we're fatter than we've ever been? Do you think there's a problem with that? Just think of that for a moment. What you were told is not true. Matter of fact, if you go to a health food store right now and you ask them, show me the aisle where I can lose fat and give me a pill for that. You know what's at the top of the list there on that aisle? What's there? They have coconut oil pill. Why do you think that is? Because coconut oil is a medium chain fatty acid, and what it does is increase your metabolism by 20%. Right? So now I'm going to give you some numbers, and I want you to write this down. Can I write on this board? Can I? Kim? Okay. I want you to write this down. I want you to just commit this to memory for the rest of your life. You guys ready? So I'm going to start with number 2,000. I want you to write down 2,000 on your piece of paper. And then I'm going to give you an example. So it's a 2,000 calorie diet. And then for a person that is 200 pounds. Okay, I know that this doesn't apply to most of you. I just want to make round numbers. Then we're going to be able to apply it to each and every one of you easy. You guys ready? If you're on a 2,000 calorie diet and you're 200 pounds, the maximum sugar you should be eating in a day, from Hershey cookies to, having a banana to having an apple, is 100 grams of any kinds. 100 grams of sugar. Any one of you smart one that knows how many calories per grams of sugar do you have? You guys know?
9.
Pretty close. That's for the fat. But for the sugar, it's 4. Yeah. So 100 grams would be how many calories?
400.
That would be 400 calories. Write this down. Now I'm going to give you a number for the amount of protein that you should have in a day. You should not have more than half your body weight. Okay, so if this person is 200 pounds, how much grams of protein should this person have in a day? 100 grams. Yes or yes? Yes or yes?
Yes.
100 grams. For every grams of protein, how many calories? 4 calories per gram. So how many calories is that? How many? 400. What's the total of those two?
800.
800 calories. So if you do 2,000 minus 800 is what?
1,200.
The remaining should be all fat. Your body, physiologically, you can look in any physiology book, it's going to tell you your body does not use more than 100 grams a day of sugar. And here I'm being generous. Some of you that are 120 pounds here, you don't need more than like 50 grams of sugar a day. Okay? So I'm being generous here. I put 100. So that means that 1,200 calories needs to come from fat. Every gram of fat has how many calories?
7.
This young man here said it twice. Right? It has 9 calories. So every calorie is of fat that you eat. Right? Every grams of fat is 9 calories. So 1,200 calories should be coming from fat. I challenge any one of you to take your little iPhone there and you just go into your Fitness Pal or you go in fitday.com and you just log in one day and see what it looks like. I don't even like when people do that, but if you just want to see it for one day, I have people write down what they eat every day, right? That's what I do. I don't really care about the amount of calories that they put in. What I do care about is what you're putting into your body. So 1,200 calories should be coming from fat. And I guarantee you that there's probably not one person in this office, in this room right now that is eating enough fat in a day. And I've been doing this for over 16 years now. So the craving comes from not eating enough fat and not putting real food into your body. So here's rule number 2. So Dr. Jean-Guy's rule number 1 is if there's a label on it, it's probably not food. Okay? Now, the chances are for you to do this perfectly is pretty hard, right? You're like, Dr. Jean-Guy, it's like climbing the mountain right now. Okay, I get it. Here's rule number 2. Rule number 2 is this. So if what you're putting into your body, if it doesn't come from the ground or just comes from a tree, right, or something that was living that was killed, that should probably not be put into your body. And then when it says on the label, so let's say that you're like, hey, this is pretty hard eating nothing with label. So if I do read label, what should I be looking for? You guys ready? If it says low sugar and low fat, you should never put it in your body. Ever, 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 ever. And the reason for that is because if it says low sugar, that means they put artificial sweeteners in it. And if it says low fat, that means they just dump a bunch of sugar in it. That's the reason why it's low fat. Right? So those are the rules. If you follow the rules, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So we want to have more protein and more fat. We're almost there. Right? The solution, we've already talked about it. We've got to eat more food. You're going to have more protein and fat and vegetables. And then, last but not least, here it says weak glands, and then fixing the organ, that's the solution. So part of it is, some of you is like, it's not that you're not trying, you're trying, but you have some issues that are so deep that it's hard to get back on top of your game because there's too much damage that's been done to the organ to begin with. And what that means is the adrenals or the pancreas or the liver might be so weak that it's hard for your body to do the right thing. So when we look at this here, the more sugar a person put into their body, the first 10, 20, 30, 40 years of their life, then what happens is you're going to start having nutritional deficiencies because the more sugar you eat, when you eat sugar, it steals all the B vitamins out of your body. So how are you going to feel?
Tired.
Tired! and then it will take all the minerals out of your body, right? It will dysregulate how the hormonal system functions. Just name it, it will do it. And then as a result of that, when there's nutritional deficiencies, then the organs, they start breaking down. It happens every single time. Then you start having symptoms. When you have symptoms, you go to the real doctor. And then the doctor is going to do what? He's going to open up the toolbox and give you what? Yeah, he's going to give you a pill. So you have high blood pressure, that's okay. We can fix that. We'll give you a pill, bring the blood pressure down. So then we'll declare you what? Healthy. Right? Your cholesterol was high last year. Now we're giving you cholesterol drugs. Now your cholesterol is at 150. We'll declare you what? Yeah, you're doing great. It's like running in the house. The house is on fire. There's an alarm system and you take the batteries out. What's happening to the house? It's burning. It's still burning. Right? So when people say, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, my doctor said, I'm healthy. I'm healthy. If a person is truly healthy, do they take more drugs or less drugs? What do you think? Unfortunately, there's only 1 person out of 1,000 that makes it to the age of 60 without taking any prescription medication. Just think of that for a moment. Unfortunately, there's 5 out of 6 people today in this country as we speak right now that will die from heart disease or cancer. 5 out of 6, that's a lot of people. And some people think it's because of their bad gene. And I want to leave you with that. As far as the gene, because some of you truly believe that because all your family, they have all the same problems. The only thing that runs in family is silliness. Right? Because families and generations do the exact same thing over and over again. It was proven long time ago, and you can look this up. There's a new science that's been out there for over 20 years now. It's called epigenetics. And what that means is your genes, it's just like a big library of books, and you got to decide which one you're going to be pulling off the shelf. What does that mean? That means however you treat your body, right, your environment, and how you treat your body with what you're putting in will dictate which gene you're going to be pulling off the shelf. Does that make sense to you? The best people in genetics right now believe that over 95% of the disease, the chronic illnesses that we have in this country has nothing to do with the gene. It's because of the environment and lifestyle. Now, to me, all of you should be empowered because this idea to say, hey, there's nothing I can do because everybody in my family have it. It's not because they have it that you have to repeat the pattern. Right? So, you know, at some level for people's health, each and every one of you here, you have the choice to do, you know, I mean, I totally get that people can go one way or the other, right? But just think that, if I say to you guys today, what is the best time to do something for your health? When is the best time?
Today.
Yeah, right now. You're like, right now. So you have 1 or 2 choices. It's either you don't do anything and then you wait, and then guess what's going to happen in a year from now, in 5 years from now? Just imagine that for a minute. More pain, more suffering, diabetes, Alzheimer, hormone problem, right? Depression. Knowing that something could have been done. Versus doing something right now and getting on the journey. What are the possibilities? To me, this is exciting. That's really exciting. And that's the reason why, you know, I brought this today for you guys. Matter of fact, this quiz is, we're not going to talk about this in front of everybody because it doesn't matter. Plus, most people, they are sugar addicts. So what? The question is, what are you going to do about it? So that's the reason why I have this sugar quiz. That's the reason why I brought this good food list for you. Right? Because each and every one of you here might be like, this is your starting point. And that's what I want to share with you and say, hey, what is your next step? And your next step for some of you, it might be like this list. For some of you, it might be like, hey, I'm going to do one thing. I also want to offer you the opportunity to just have an assessment, if you choose to, a nutritional assessment at our office if you want to. Right? And that's why you have this little card. Usually when a person comes to the office for their first 2 visits, which equate to about 3 hours worth of gathering information and delivering a report, it's about 3 hours. So usually our first visit for those 2 visits is $145. And then on this card you can have that for $65. And what that means is the first evaluation is to gather the information about where you're at nutritionally, what are your goals are, where would you like to be heading. And then after that, you go home, you write down everything you eat, drink, or snack on. We write up a report to see if we can help you. And then we have strategies to just say, okay, how can we work together to get to where you want to be? That could be an option. I just want to put this on the table here. There's a lot of stuff. There's also another step that we have community talks. We've been doing this for over 12 years. Every single month it's money back guarantee because I don't charge anybody. Ha ha. Right? For the past 12 years, every single month at our office, it's right on Clipper Street there in Frandor. We also have an office in Okemos that we do those talks. This is on that orange piece of paper. So those are all like an hour and 15 minutes each. And it's to teach people in this community to become healthier and to know that if it's going to be up to you. Because if I say to each and every one of you guys today, who's responsible for your health, what would you say to that?
I am.
I am! Right? Each and every one of you. You are. I read a book many years ago, and I'd like to share this with people. And the title of the book, it's called Death by Medicine, by Daigneault. He's a PhD. And then 3 top medical doctor in the country. And in his book, he says, hey, you know what? There's 1 million people dying every single year from our medical system. 1 million people. Is that a lot of people? And he says the reason for that is 3 major reasons. Number 1 is because the patient is not the doctor anymore. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is the pharmaceutical company tells the doctor which drugs to give the patient. And then number 3 is your insurance company will decide what to pay or not to pay for you based on what your numbers look like. This test here, it's too expensive, we won't pay for that, but we're going to pay for that test. Has nothing to do with your health. It has to do with answering to crises. If you have cancer, that's no problem. We'll pay $100,000, $1 million to give you chemo treatment, but nothing is done for you to be healthy. And you guys are fortunate to have this wellness committee here that is just like, hey, you know what? We want people to be healthier, which I think it's awesome. Right? To just say, hey, what can we do? How can we make this happen? What is the next one little step? Fair enough? So I want to open the floor now for the tough questions. I have 15 minutes. You can drill me on any question you want. If I don't know, I'm just going to tell you I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't see eggs under the protein list.
Uh-huh.
Are eggs okay for protein?
Yes, absolutely. And if you were to buy eggs, what kind of eggs would you like to buy?
Free range.
Organic. Dairy.
Here we go. Good job. They're under dairy.
Wait. Oh, under dairy. I see. Okay.
Other questions? That was an easy one.
So you truly think that you are not predisposed to sugar because your dad was diabetic?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Number 1 is my father was a diabetic type 2, right? So that was because of his lifestyle. That was not a genetic problem. Absolutely. Matter of fact, there's millions of people in this country. Most people are not diabetic type 1. They're type 2. Right? And people have this thing now. They have the new diagnosis is you have metabolic syndrome. What is metabolic syndrome? It's because you eat cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta. When you eat sugar, you're going to have high blood pressure. Your cholesterol is going to be up. You're going to have diabetes. You're going to have dementia. You're going to die early. You're going to suffer a lot. Who wants to sign up for that? Nobody. Right? But people think, all of you here, you might have, at some point in time, if you're past 40, if you're not old enough yet, you go to the doctor and you just take it in. The doctor said, well, you're just getting old, you're falling apart, that's normal. That's BS. Because that's not the truth. I guarantee you that. Right? This idea that to think that every one of you think that you're like, well, I'm just getting old, it's normal, I'm falling apart. That's crazy. According to medical science, and if you've ever read the scripture, it tells you that, we should be able to live 80 to 120 years of full health. Right? It doesn't say you should suffer the last 40 years of your life. It doesn't say that. So yes, I do believe that. Okay, what else? Go ahead.
I'll ask. Coffee and alcohol. I've seen lots of mentions of avoiding coffee. There's nothing on here about alcohol. I'm kind of assuming that's processed into sugar almost immediately.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you want to think about coffee, I mean, it's not like I'm against coffee, but when a person comes in, they tell me they have 16 cups a day, that might be a problem. The reason why you have 16 cups a day is because your adrenals are shut. When your adrenals are shut, you need something to give you energy. So what coffee does is, if you were to drink coffee, I would say you want to have organic coffee. And coffee beans are just like nuts, they have oil on it. So when you buy it, it's already grounded up. So what happened, the oil turns rancid, and the rancidity of the oil, it's called lipid peroxidation, it's a known carcinogen. Right? So if you were to buy like organic coffee, have a cup a day, you won't get any grief from me. So it all depends on why a person is using the coffee, and most people drink coffee because if they don't, they're gonna fall somewhere. They're gonna pass out. They could not see their life without drinking coffee. Go ahead.
Excuse me, what about decaffeinated coffee?
Decaf, if you drink decaf, I would look for a process called Swiss processed decaf, and the reason for that is because they use chlorine to take the caffeine out of the coffee, which is gonna kill you too.
Okay, what about green tea? I always hear that drinking green tea is always good for you, rather than drinking coffee. So, it's green tea, get white tea, blue tea, black teas.
So at the end of the day, those tea, it's all about how they've been refined, right? So the quality of the tea, I think it's important. There is some studies out there on both ways, black teas, green teas, the benefit. I personally do not see. You're never going to hear Dr. Jean-Guy saying, you can just, if you follow me and you listen to me, you're never going to hear me saying, this thing here is that's the golden, there's one thing that's going to make you healthy. You're not going to hear that from me. The noni juice and the mangosteen juice and that juice, the miracle whatever, I just don't believe in that. The reason why I don't believe in that, and I'm not telling you it's not good, what I say to you is what your body needs nutritionally and what this person needs nutritionally might be two different things. Right? So now I want to answer the question about alcohol because I guess I didn't answer your question. The alcohol, the answer is yes, there's no doubt that it's breakdowns into sugar. There is some health benefit to wine, but you have to drink a couple of bottles a day. So, I mean, some people, they just default to that, right? I say to you again, if you have a glass of red wine, I don't think it's a big deal. It's all about, I mean, if you want to be a purist, don't drink. I have no problem with that. If you want to drink some, I have no problem with that. I had this person at Michigan State ask me when I did one of those lunch and learn, this was a year ago, he says to me, he's like, "But Dr. Jean-Guy, don't you think that, all this fish that we eat, it's going to kill us because there's heavy metals?" And then, what my answer was? Can you guys imagine what my answer was? I said to him nicely, I didn't want to be mean because, this is not in my nature. Well, it used to be maybe. But here's what I said. I said, people have no problem eating cake, cookies, candies, and ice cream, and now they're afraid of eating fish because they think they're going to have heavy metal toxicity. Just think of that for a moment. Right? It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm not telling you that there's no heavy metals in fish, and there's not I can give you a list of the fish that are better than other, but if you compare that with cake, cookies, candies, and ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta, I'll tell you right now, you can eat the fish all day long. Right? So we have to make choices. Some choices are better than others. You guys are doing awesome. More questions. Go for it. I'm here for you today.
I have a question. So you're saying that your cancer is not hereditary?
No, absolutely not. Look it up. Dig deep. Cancer is just a process of adaptation from the environment and lifestyle a person is into. There's a great book, it's called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. He's a PhD cellular biologist, and he's one of the forerunner into epigenetics. And if you really want to know about it and read about it, he's probably the guy that you want to read some of his work. His name is Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's a cellular biologist. Other questions? Come on, you guys. I mean, seriously, we have time.
What about breast cancer?
Yeah.
Let's stay on this for a minute because there's all kinds of research that shows that breast cancer runs in families.
Okay.
And what about siblings that didn't grow up together? They grew up in adopted families and they still have the same kind of health issues. And researchers say they're genetically determined.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Easy. Are you ready?
You're going to say what you've been saying all along.
No. You didn't hear that one. It's new. So there's hundreds of thousands of women that have the breast cancer gene and they don't develop breast cancer. So why do you think that is?
Genetically passed down.
All of you here have bad genes. Based on your lifestyle, you're going to decide which books you're going to be pulling off the shelf. That's what I say to you. I say that we all have bad genes. Matter of fact, they just found a gene for a hangover. What if you don't drink, you don't get a hangover? I mean, truly, that's true. Okay? That's true. Hundreds of thousands of women in this country have the breast cancer gene, but they don't develop cancer. So why do you think that is? So the best people in genetics, they also take people, exactly what you said to me, they take twins, they put them in a different environment. Some of them, they're in an environment which is a crappy environment, they develop chronic illnesses, and those guys don't. But if they're both in crappy environment, they can both develop, bad things. That's my point to you, right?
You're talking about cultural trends and diet and stuff.
Well,
That
it's not just
explains
diet. It's not just the diet. It's the environment and lifestyle that people have, right? It's not just one thing. I tell people in my office, if you're really interested in health, there's a lot more to talk about, right? But I talk about the core four. The core four is your body needs to function properly, right? If you don't have a nervous system that is functioning properly, you're never going to be the best you can be. Then the way you eat, move, and think in a gravity environment will also determine how you live your life. So there's a lot more to investigate besides just, talking about nutrition, which, we can do at a later time. Yeah, but that's a very good point. People always ask me that, and I appreciate you asking that question because it's a common question. And lots of people have breast cancer, right? But just think of this for a moment too, which is very interesting. I'm just going to give you some food for thought. The area of the body, if you're a woman, that you have the most fat, that's the reason why female, by nature, even if they were skinny, they'd have more fat than a man, is because of breast tissue. So the area in your body that is the best place to store crap, anything that is toxic to the body, is in fat cells. Anything that is toxic to the body's protective mechanism to try to protect you from croaking over is to store it into fat cells.
And that's how we get the belly, what's it called? Pockets.
Handles.
Handles.
Love handles?
Love handles.
Love handles.
So, if you understand about stress, right? So I'll tell you about stress for a minute. It's going to answer your question about love handle. Are you ready? So when a person is stressed, do you think that they're more prone to have low blood pressure or high blood pressure? That was not a trick question. Do you think that if the lion comes out of the cage, starts chasing you, meaning you have stress, do you need more blood sugar or less blood sugar in your bloodstream if you want to run fast?
More.
That's right. If you want to run fast, and you're scared, are you more likely that your hormones that handle stress going to be higher or lower? What do you think?
Higher.
If you run really fast for your life, what are the chances that you have time to poo or pee? If somebody scares you, you might crap your pants. But if you run for your life, here's what's going to happen. This year is going to shut down. So what happened is people go to the doctor and they're like, hey, I have high blood pressure. They're like, no problem, got a pill for that. My sugar is high, no problem, got a pill for that. Your cholesterol is high, no problem, got a pill for that. I have indigestion, heartburn, and reflux, no problem, we got Nexium for that. Do you guys understand that when you don't understand what the body is trying to accomplish, when a person is stressed out, do you think that the body cares about the immune system? If you run for your life from the lion right now, do you think the body cares about the immune system? No, because we're not worried about an infection right now, we're just worried about my life. So what happens is when a person has stress, their immune system goes down every single time. Every single time. Right? And it's been proven. This stuff, you can look it up. So you have all these chains of things that will happen into your body that people think it's normal. And of course, we go to the real doctor and they got a pill for all of those things, right? And we're like, you're just falling apart. It's normal. It's all in your head. You're crazy. And we're just going to give you this stuff and just get out of here. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Right? The body is a master at adapting to the environment. That's what the body does. The body does that for heart disease. The body does that for cancer, for dementia, for just like name it, it does it. The body is a master at adapting for the environment. So whatever environment, lifestyle you have, the body is just adapting. So when a person comes to the office and I start working with them, those are the things that I work with them with to say, hey, you know what? Where's the stress at? Where's that coming from? Because we have to work on the core four. You cannot just work on one. If a person is truly interested in health, you want to know what's going on. So there's more that needs to be touched on. Okay, other questions?
What about taking vitamins? Like if you're low on B vitamin or something like that, you're saying that you don't need to take that?
No, I did not say that. Matter of fact, Dr. Jean-Guy is all about, I'm going to use a different term. I'm going to use the term food supplements. There's a difference between vitamins and food supplements. Matter of fact, if you go to the health food store, most of them that they have at the health food store, it's called vitamin. Vitamin is a man-made that is like a PhD that is really smart in chemistry, that is giving you synthetic stuff to dump into your body. Dr. Jean-Guy is not a fan of that. I'm a fan of the whole. If I ask any one of you here today, would you rather have the glass of orange juice or the orange? Which one would you pick?
Orange.
See, you guys, you might have a PhD, but you don't need a PhD in nutrition. You just need common sense. You need to put the whole in your body, right? So when we talked about food supplements, Dr. Jean-Guy is a fan of food supplements instead of vitamins, because vitamins is just the parts. It's like you eating a cookie. The cookie is just like, it's just like sugar. It's nothing. When you take the parts, it's not good for your body. Then your body has to steal from other organs to activate it. So if you go to the store and you take ascorbic acid, which you think it's vitamin C, but you look on the label, it says ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid, when you put it into your body, then it looks for the coenzyme and the cofactor to activate it. This might be more than what you want to know. I'm just going to tell you anyway. Right? So your body's going to steal from your organ in order to activate it. So you think you're taking vitamin C and it's going to make your immune system better, but in the meantime, what it does is it drains your adrenal glands. So instead of making you better over time, making you worse, and you don't know because you're like, hey, everybody says vitamin C is great. The problem is you don't know what you're buying because you're clueless. You don't understand. You look on this label, there's like 100 different names. You're like, whoa, that sounds really good. 100% of the RDA, 200% of the RDA. You're like, this is really, really good. Look at this big list. Right? And you don't know what you're buying. There's a difference between vitamins and then whole food supplements. Whole food supplements is like you would call the places wherever they're at and say, hey, do you guys have a farm there? What do you put in those bottles? So the world of nutrition and the world of vitamins, they're very confusing, both of them these days. Right? I grew up on a farm, so you guys don't know that, but if you eat baby carrots, do you know that on the farm right now? My dad has passed away, right? So my mom could not handle to take over the farm. So what happened is we had to sell our farm. But my cousins are still in business in Montreal. They have thousands of acres of farming land. So they make those little baby carrots. Do you know how they make baby carrots? How they end up into that little bag? They bake them into chlorine to make them last longer. That's why you see this white film there on the bag. And that's what people put in their body. So when you eat chlorine every day, guess what happens? You destroy your pancreas, it shuts down your thyroid, but that's okay, we've got thyroid hormone for that. And then we'll give you glucophage for your type 2 diabetes, no problem. People don't know. They're like, well, Dr. John, I eat carrots. Yeah, what kind? I want to know. Right? You don't know what you don't know. I tell people, I said, the reason why we're sick is because people have the wrong information. If you have the map of the United States and you want to go to New York and you start driving west, I don't think you're going to make it. It doesn't matter if the map is right. If you don't drive in the right direction, you're not going to make it. And for many of you here, because, you were told something and you just believed them, you're just driving west and you think you're going to make it to New York. And it's not happening. That's the reason why I have a passion about what I do, because my goal is to teach people to catch their own fish. Would that be important, you think? Is it important for people to know? Is it important for you to become your own doctor? Is that important? Yeah. Is that important for you to be informed and to truly know what the truth is? And the truth is, you can look this up, and it's not like, I did say a few things that were crazy today, right? But you can go look them up. I just want to reframe what you've been taught. Most of this stuff is just common sense. But there's people every day chirping in your ears, they think that low fat, low sugar this is the way to go. More questions? I think I have time for one more.
What about D?
D. D what?
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Vitamin D. People are deficient.
So how do you get it? It's almost impossible to get from food.
From sunlight.
Yeah, that is true. Matter of fact, even when you live in Florida, people are low in vitamin D, right? So it's probably something that most people should be, if you were to take something, right? So let's say a person, they just asked me, passing in the office or on the street, or you guys today, say, Dr. Jean-Guy, what are maybe the one or two things that I should be doing until the day I croak over? That is like a no-brainer. You should be taking fish oil every day, and you should be taking vitamin D every day. And the fish oil is because you don't get enough DHA and EPA in your diet. You just don't. The only thing that I want to say is don't go buy fish oil at GNC and Walmart and Rite Aid, okay? Because there's quality of fish oil. If they leave all the toxicity in it and it says natural and you guys are just, you know, they just lure you. You just like, it says natural. Natural means nothing. They just don't take the mercury out of it. They don't take anything out of it. It's cheap, but it's worth nothing. It's killing you. So fish oil is one. Here in Lansing, I don't know if you knew that, but we're the second city that is the most overcast in the country, so we don't get much sun. But even when people live in Florida, they have another problem, is they take all this junk and they put it on their skin. Right? So when you put the junk on your skin, guess what happened? More chemicals, and then the sun cannot get to the skin to give you that vitamin D. So people in Florida, they're not any better than people in Michigan, believe it or not. So naturally occurring vitamin Ds, you find that in cod liver oil. And again, cod liver oil, over the years, many companies have changed it, and most people don't know what to look for cod liver oil. In cod liver oil, the ratio of vitamin A to vitamin D should be 10 to 1. And if you don't have that ratio, that means that they filter the oil, and then they put synthetic stuff back in. You guys with me on that?
Say the ratio, name, what is 10 to 1?
Vitamin A
A
to vitamin D. Yeah, it should be 10 to 1 ratio in cod liver oil. Now, cod liver oil also has fish oil in it, right? I mean, I just want to make sure that some people are confused about that. Cod liver oil is fish oil, but it also has vitamin A and vitamin D in it, naturally occurring. Now, for most of you in here, the amount of vitamin D in cod liver oil is still not enough. You need to have more. Okay, and what that means is you should probably take some vitamin D, and they don't have whole food vitamin D. They don't have whole food vitamin D, believe it. Well, there is a few companies, but you're not going to find them unless you're seeking a professional person. So the best that you're going to be able to get is vitamin D3. Okay, and vitamin D3 is only a portion of vitamin D, the whole vitamin D. And for most of you in here, you should take 3 to 5,000 IUs a day at least, right? 3 to 5,000 IUs at least. And the more weight that the more that you're away from your ideal weight, the more problem you'll have with vitamin D, because your body stores the vitamin D into your cells and your body is not using it. Yes, ma'am?
Well, my doctor told me to take vitamin, but 2,500 milligrams of vitamin D, but also take calcium in order to break it down. Is that, you have to have calcium with vitamin D to break it down?
Well, the answer is, vitamin D doesn't work by itself. There's other things that it works with, right? Not necessarily. The biggest thing, there's a lot of things that you put into your body that has calcium in it. The problem is if you have calcium carbonate that you take in some of your supplements, this is the worst thing you can put in your body and you don't break it down. So basically it goes into your joints and then you have arthritis. That's okay, we've got a pill for that. So calcium that people take, if it's calcium carbonate, it's not a good calcium. Your body doesn't break it down. And even if you take it with vitamin D, it's not going to do a whole lot. Right? So you get calcium, you get plenty of calcium in the dairy that people are putting into their body, and the vegetables that people put into their body, and the green leafy vegetables. So people get some usable calcium from that. Right? So for me, I wouldn't be overly concerned, but if you eat cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta all day, you should probably have a bottle of every vitamin under the planet and hope for the best. Right? Because you're so mineral depleted that, something will happen. It doesn't matter which vitamins you take. Yes, I thought it was my last question, but go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Is it possible to get whole vitamin D from any source?
Yeah. Yes, but not from, unless it's from a professional person. There's a line that I carry, it's from Standard Process, and they have whole food vitamin D. But that I know of, besides cod liver oil and that company, I don't know any of them that have whole food vitamin D.
So cod liver oil with vitamin D does have a whole vitamin D component?
In cod liver oil, the answer is yes, but in many of the company now, they've put synthetic vitamin D, and it's going to say on the label vitamin D3. As soon as you see vitamin D3, the reason why they give vitamin D3 is because they believe that vitamin D3, it's called 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is the active part of vitamin D after it passes through your kidneys. I don't think you need to know that.
I don't.
Okay. But that's why they give people vitamin D3.
Okay.
Okay? Because that's the active part and that's what they want people to have. But then again, we go back to the orange and the glass of orange juice. Is there something in the orange that maybe the glass of orange juice doesn't have?
We eat cod every week. Does that count.
Yes, that counts for some. Right?
That was just a joke.
That's okay. I just want to, I want to remind you guys that, the opportunity that you have to just think of what is your next step. Do not leave this place here without saying, what is my next one step? You guys walking out of this office and saying, you know what, Dr. Jean-Guy had good information, I'll be really disappointed. Right? Because good information without action, no good. It doesn't matter what your next step is. I just say to you guys, what is your next step? When you walk out of this door, you just get on it. I encourage you to do that. Your health is important. If you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you have kids, it's important. My father would have been 74 years old. I wish he'd be sitting right here. I wish he would have seen me getting married, watching my kids getting on the ice, right? My wife's only seen pictures of my father because his health was not a priority. He thought that bringing money home was more important. You can't bring money home, right, when you're not healthy and you're dying and you're dead at the age of 40. You just can't do that. So I'm here for you to help you. You guys have all the information that you need. I just want to thank you for being here. If you have more questions, answer the question you have. I know you need to get back to work, but I was glad that I could make it here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.